So to the theme, and so letting go, and why that is such a significant principle in the Buddha's core teaching of the Four Noble Truths, which is he described the basic spiritual malaise of the human community, that we're not totally happy all of the time. We experience dissatisfaction, or dukkha in our scriptural language, which means that feeling of not quite rightness, it shouldn't be this way, the universe is out of order, a feeling of wrongness, or even with a pleasant feeling, that unkeepability, the way that is something that's beautiful or delightful, precious, can't be owned and kept forever. Even that we would call a quality of dukkha, or dissatisfaction. So the Buddha recognized all of us as human beings experience that quality from time to time, often very regularly. So the second noble truth is that feeling of dissatisfaction that arises within us, that has a cause, and the cause is self-centered craving. And then the third noble truth is the prognosis. This is all laid out like a kind of a medical analysis. So the symptom is dukkha, the cause is self-centered craving, the prognosis is it's curable. That's the good news. Kind of why we're here, why I've been living as a monk for so long, is that the prognosis is cure is possible. Perfect spiritual health is possible. And then the fourth truth is the methodology, or the treatment, the medicine, what to do in order to get from the second truth to the third, the cause to the ending. So when the Buddha talks about how to say deal with that cause of suffering, that cause of dukkha, what he highlights is letting go. And so in a way that when that self-centered craving, various kinds, which I'll talk about during the day, when that self-centered craving is present, what to do with it is let go, let go, let go. So this is why letting go is such a strong feature of Buddhist teachings, and that it's really the linchpin, the kind of the keystone of the Four Noble Truths. This is the main thing to do with respect to this process, these teachings, is when that craving has arisen, self-centered patterns of desire, coarse or subtle, the thing to do is let go, let go, let go. And many years ago, when Ajahn Sumedho, our teacher, when he was a novice in northeast Thailand, he stayed in a little hut for a year, on sort of solitary retreat for a whole year. That was his introduction to Buddhist monastic life. And he had one book with him that he read about 80 times, which was Venerable Nyanatiloka's The Word of the Buddha, which highlights the central teachings, and particularly goes into the analysis of the Four Noble Truths. And he realized, okay, this is it, letting go, letting go, letting go. So Ajahn Sumedho has quite a skill and ability at visualization. So he said he used to create a kind of banner in his mind, like a sort of marquee outside a cinema with the words, let go, in kind of flashing lights, let go, let go, let go. And all of the things that his mind would come up with, love, hate, fear, desire, planning, remembering, restlessness, whatever it might be, let go, let go, let go. So there's also another interesting teaching I thought I would introduce you to, or maybe some of you are familiar with already. The great Buddhist master Ajahn Buddhadasa, who some of you might have heard of from Thailand in this current age, he said there's a place in the teachings where the Buddha summarizes the whole of the Tripitaka, the whole of the Pali Canon, in 4 words. So he sums up the entire thing in 4 words. And this is, if you're interested in looking up suttas, discourses, this is in sutta number 37 in the middle length discourses, called the Shorter Discourse on the Destruction of Craving. And in this dialogue, the Buddha says, the summary of the teaching is nothing. Don't cling to anything. Sabbe dhamma nalang abhini vesaya. Don't cling to anything. 4 words. And he said, if you've heard this, you've heard everything. If you've understood this, you've understood everything. If you've practiced this, you've practiced everything. If you've fully realized the implications of this and embodied that, then you've fully realized everything. Which is not a small statement. So, don't cling to anything. Sabe dhamma nalang abhinivesaya. So, letting go, not clinging, this has got a central place in Buddhist teachings. But then the way that we can relate socially or culturally to letting go can be a kind of switching off or dissociating, sort of abstracting, like letting go, I don't care. Or when we see the words non-attachment, then often we can feel like, oh, I'm supposed to have no emotions, or I'm supposed to not feel anything. I'm supposed to just ignore the world and just look at my mind. And so that, I don't know if any of you here have had that as an assumption or an understanding when coming across teachings of non-attachment, but it's a very common question. I've been teaching for about 35 years, I think, or maybe more, and this question has come up so many times, continually, in many, many different places around the world. So there's an assumption or a way that we read letting go or non-attachment as a kind of an emotional shutdown or a dissociation or a kind of a numbing or a sense that we're trying to turn ourselves into a video camera that just sort of records data and sort of notices the world and has no sensitivity. But I would say that's a radical misunderstanding of what is meant by non-attachment. So it's also one of the reasons I thought of exploring this theme today, because non-attachment is really, really useful. It's like letting go is the linchpin, the keystone of the teaching of the way to be happy. I would say to be free, but it doesn't mean switching off or going numb, or even in using your meditation to create a kind of hermetically sealed bubble where you can kind of climb into our little samadhi tank and just be blissfully. I'm not belittling meditation and samadhi. It's really, again, really useful, really important quality. But we can misuse samadhi to make a kind of hermetically sealed bubble, a kind of a kind of diving bell that we put ourselves in and find a beautiful, peaceful, quiet spot, and the rest of the world is walled off and we're insulated against that. So I say it's a wrong understanding of what we mean by non-attachment, because one of the aspects of non-attachment is when we develop that or develop that skillfully is we can be unattached to our hesitancy, so that if we are, say, afraid to act or afraid to engage or uncomfortable with taking responsibility, taking initiative, then letting go can be letting go of that hesitancy, letting go of that resistance, letting go of that fear, that anxiety, that self-concern. So non-attachment can actually result in taking action, being involved and getting more connected with people and things and the world. So rather than non-attachment and letting go being a kind of switching off and isolating, insulating this individual from the world around and people and the world of action and feeling and decision making, it's not that at all, I would suggest. One of the teachings I like to reflect on, and I feel is also very closely related to this, is a dialogue between, I think it's between Venerable Sariputta, the Buddha's chief disciple, and another of the monks, and they're having a discussion about letting go. And in that dialogue, Sariputta says, the cessation of becoming is nibbana. Bhava nirodho nibbanang. So when the mind lets go of that grasping, craving, grasping, becoming, those kind of qualities of attachment, then when that grasping has stopped, when that becoming urge has stopped, what we experience is nibbana, that's total peacefulness, clarity. And again, nibbana is not a sort of annihilation or a sort of a switching off or a negation, but actually, those of you who are very interested in nibbana, there's a whole 400-page book on the table there. I bought a few copies of along today, called The Island. But nibbana is far from being a state of numbness or being switched off or disconnected, but it's that quality of profound peace and ease and freedom that comes when that grasping, when that becoming urge has been let go of. So in this respect, then if non-attachment is not about say switching off or dissociating from the senses, then how does that work? Well, in the meditation, probably those of you who've done meditation before, which again I assume is most everyone who's come today, you might have noticed along the way when your mind is distracted, you're caught up with a sound in the street, or a train of thought, or the mind caught up in planning or remembering, and in case any of you are thinking, oh, he's reading my mind. How does he know? This is just statistically very likely, rather than any kind of psychic power. So it's like, I'm not reading anybody's mind, it's just, this is how most of our minds work most of the time. So if the mind has been distracted, you're trying to practice meditation, your mind is distracted and caught up in the sound in the street, or a memory, or an idea, or a plan, and then as I notice it, oh, yeah, my mind has wandered away, and you notice that feeling of entanglement and grasping, being caught up in that thought, that fantasy, that memory, that worry, and then there's a letting go. There's a letting go of whatever the mind has grasped, and then the attention comes back to the present, to the feeling of your breath, or the mantra that you're following, or an image that you're visualizing, or whatever the meditation object might be. So in that moment of letting go, what's happening? And again, during today, I'll try to emphasize this during the meditations that we do together, so that when that letting go happens, then in that moment, when the grasping stops, what is here? And again, I'm not reading anybody's mind, but if you recollect, or you think in that moment, what's that like? How does that feel? And I would suggest that in that moment, there is clarity, the mind is awake, the six senses are still operating, you hear and see and smell and taste and touch and can think. The mind is awake, there's a sense of spaciousness, and no sense, in that moment of letting go, there's no sense of self. In that immediate letting go, there isn't a kind of, if it's a genuine dropping of that object, there's a moment before, oh, I've got to get back to the breath, or I should be. When the grasping stops for a moment, there's brightness, spaciousness, no sense of self, and it's extremely ordinary. It's not like a kind of blissful cosmic experience with the universe shaking and quaking, but rather it's in a way an utter normality that's completely peaceful and spacious. And then the mind can jump in and get back to me meditating, or another distraction, or being caught up with something else. But in that moment of letting go, and I would say that's what the bhava nirodho nibbānam, the cessation of becoming, is nibbana. In that moment, there's I would say we have a taste of nibbana, a taste of that natural peacefulness. This is the nature of the mind when it's free of grasping. And there's another place in the teachings where the Buddha says the cessation of grasping is deathlessness. That is that the mind is awake to its own fundamental nature as a timeless, unborn, undying presence. Again, I'm saying these words, some of these words might be familiar, some of them not, but I would suggest that all of us know that quality of letting go. Sometimes when it's not even when we're practicing meditation, when we just sort of, you finish some task around the house, you've been hoovering the carpet, or you just finished the dishes, or you just got through your email pile, and you sit yourself down and go, ah. In that moment, I would say, even though you might think, well, that's pretty mundane, but I would suggest the mind that is doing that is the same mind that's on the meditation cushion. How could it not be? But in that moment of relaxation, before I start to do anything else, that letting go, there's a natural, easeful peacefulness before the mind picks up the next task or the next activity or the next thing to worry about. When we do let go and experience that kind of spaciousness, sometimes our ego can feel quite uncomfortable and say, quick, I'm sure I should be worrying about something. I'm sure I should be busy with something. And then we can chase after another thing to fill ourselves up with, because sometimes that space and silence and inner peace can be intimidating. And again, we'll hopefully look at that during today. But I would say that one of the spiritual tasks and the development of that third noble truth, that of the ending of dukkha, the absence of that dissatisfaction, is letting the heart really enjoy that spacious, peaceful, easeful, natural quality, to be alert to that, to be attentive to that. So when we consider that, or maybe we can do a little bit of an exercise right now, just in case you want to get a sense of, we can have a little group experiment if you're okay with this. So what I would suggest is, if you're open to this, just create some tension, tighten your jaw or your stomach or your shoulders, just create some physical tension, just for a moment. Feel that stressful quality, and then relax. Let your jaw soften, let your stomach spread, let your shoulders drop. In that moment of even physical relaxation, there's something that goes, I'm not reading anybody's mind, this is just statistically likely, that when that physical relaxation happens, there's a moment, at least to some degree, of that same easeful, peaceful, natural quality. So I would say when the heart is free of attachments, when we have let go, we haven't switched off, we are not disconnected, we're not dissociated, we're not kind of zoned out. We care, we're awake, we're alert, but there's an absence of grasping. The heart is unobstructed, is uncluttered by the habits of self-view and projection. Does that make sense? So hopefully most of us could get a bit of a feeling for that. So then, to the question of then wise engagement or engagement, so how can that principle of non-attachment or letting go, how does that relate to engagement? The title for today was letting go. Isn't that a bit irresponsible? Because as I would reckon, good-hearted, caring people, the kind of people that come for a day of Buddhist meditation and looking at the Buddha's teachings, one would assume we're good-hearted, kindly people who care about the world, care about each other, have a disposition towards compassion and the wish for well-being for the world and for all creatures, all beings. So that idea of letting go can seem irresponsible. It can be suggesting that we're not trying to take action. We're not taking responsibility for the difference that we can make in the world, as if we are shutting off or disconnecting from the world around us. So that and so that. I would say it's a misunderstanding of the Buddha's teaching that letting go is not an irresponsibility. So I'm answering the question already, or giving my reasons, but rather letting go is actually a way of tapping into the root of our responsivity, response-ability. I'm borrowing that word from Ajahn Chah. I thought it was responsibility, the ability to respond and to be responsive. So I'm grateful to her for that very neat use of the word, or recoining of the word, responsibility. Because when we have let go of self-concern, we've let go of that kind of hesitancy, or let go of our anxiety or habits of self-protection, self-preservation, self-cherishing, and are more able to be attuned to the time, the place, the situation, then we find we're able to respond in a skillful way. We are able to act in a way that's attuned to the needs of the people around us, the world around us, and the situations that we live in. Like today is Hiroshima Day, August the 6th. And so probably many of us are aware of that. This is a tragic day in human history, and is recollected by the Japanese community in Japan and around the world in particular, but by many, many thousands, hundreds of thousands, probably millions of caring people. That tragic event of the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and the massive destruction of human life and the ecosystem that occurred on those days. One remembers that. I've been to Hiroshima and have spent a little time there in recent years, and also social concerns, the war in the Ukraine, also the bombing of the continuing conflicts in the Middle East, in Yemen and Palestine, and the treatment of the Uyghur people in China, and many and various different massive social issues. The economy in this country, economic and social concerns, societal concerns, the inflation rate now into double figures. I noticed looking at the news that at least the news I was reading. So there's a lot of things to worry about, a lot of things in our society, both local and far away, both present and from the past, to be aware of, and the many and various injustices that continue today in this moment in this country and around the world. So I would say that the Buddha's teachings on non-attachment actually help us to be more fully and completely and effectively engaged. Again, going back to the feeling or the common assumption that letting go of desire means that we shouldn't take any action or we shouldn't do anything. I would say that there's a lack of understanding about the word desire, because people say, well, the Buddha said, you just said, Ajahn, craving or desire is the cause of dukkha, and we should let go of that craving, and then the dukkha will stop. So how can we choose to do anything? How can we desire? If desire is the troublemaker and is the cause of all our difficulties, how is it that we can take action or do anything? So again, probably a number of you are very familiar with this, but maybe some of you are not. But there's two words for desire in Pali, and they have quite different meanings. So the desire or the craving that's the troublemaker, that's the one mentioned in the Four Noble Truths, is tanha. The Sanskrit word is trishna, and it literally means thirst. And so probably, and I deliberately use the English word craving rather than desire because of this point. So craving has more of a kind of self-centered, agitated tone to it. Tanha always has some kind of self-based element, whether that's voiced or not. So that, say an animal, a predator acting on its instinct would have a self-based motivation. It wouldn't be thinking I the cat chasing the mouse, or I the snake eating the frog. But that there's a very I want to eat. I'm catching this, formed in the emotional, instinctual realm, even if it's not in the conceptual realm. But so the tanha, craving, always has that self-centered, agitated tone to it. That's why it's naturally and intrinsically a departure from attunement with reality in its most fundamental nature. The other kind of desire is called chanda, 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 and so that can be desire for things that are unwholesome, like desire to steal money, or desire to cheat and to win a competition. But it also can be the desire to train the mind and to realize full and complete enlightenment for the benefit of yourself and all beings. It can also be the desire to take a sip of water because you're thirsty. So it can be very wholesome, it can be functional and neutral, or it can be very unwholesome. It's a kind of morally neutral term. And so the chanda is that in a way a prerequisite condition. We need that to do anything in our life, to come here to Stephen's house for this meditation day, to want to do something with your mind to make your life more peaceful, more effective, more comfortable. To do anything, we need that quality of chanda. So, along with being translated as desire, it can also be translated as interest, enthusiasm, zeal. So that's a sine qua non. It's a prerequisite condition for enlightenment. So the Buddha needed to have chanda to set forth on the spiritual path, to undergo the many ascetic practices he took on, and then also he needed to have that chanda to leave that all behind and undertake a more moderate path of the middle way. So chanda is what is useful to us and is a driving force for our engagement skillfully with our family, with our work, and with the world, and taking care of the aspects of the world that we can have a positive effect upon. Looking to them, being interested in them, engaging with them, acting upon them. So, along with chanda, there's three other qualities that are important, and I talk about these a lot because it's a significant aspect of really making the best of our lives, I would say. So, along with that interest or enthusiasm, that desire to do something, then we need to have energy, rather than thinking, yes, I'm going to go to that meditation day, and then looking at the clock and going, oh, well, it's already 9:45, I don't think I'll bother. You need energy. There needs to be that engagement of like, oh yeah, I want to be there for that meditation day, therefore get up, get ready, get there in time. So there needs to be virya. And then the third one is citta. In this respect, it means thinking about what it is that you want to do. Okay, it's at Stephen's house, not at King Alfred's school. So what's the address? Where do I go? So thinking about what it is that you need to do. And then the fourth one is called reviewing, or vimamsa, which is looking at the results of it. So, okay, did I arrive at Stephen's house? Yes. Okay, we're good. So that kind of desire, when it's got a wholesome object or a neutral object, doesn't have any negative consequences that go with it. So that's not the desire that's the cause of suffering, but that's the desire that we need to live our lives in a wholesome and skillful way. So this is why in the Buddha's teaching, in the Eightfold Path, you have a couple of the elements of it that related to this are right intention or right resolution, samma vayamo, how we make decisions. So there has to be a way that we can make decisions, make choices, give direction to our life that's in tune with harmony. There must be a way that we can decide, make decisions and set direction for our life that doesn't have a negative consequence, that is not problematic. And similarly, right effort, samma vayamo, there has to be a way that we put energy into our actions and do the work that we do. We make the efforts to help out in our family, in our workplace, in the world that we do. There has to be, because those are aspects of the Eightfold Path, so then naturally there's ways that we can make decisions and engage with the world that has peaceful and liberating results rather than anything negative or problematic. So in that respect, then it's helpful to look at where we get lost, or where the trouble lies, and that why is it that engagement can be so stressful or so burdensome, or bring about what they call compassion fatigue, that trying so hard to help others, trying to be a good person, trying to do the right thing, that we can, feeling helpless or feeling despairing, feeling that it's a hopeless cause, and so the heart sort of sinking into depression, self-criticism, feelings of worthlessness or frustration, and so on and so forth. And that why it can be like, oh, I'm so tired of helping everybody else, I can't do this anymore, I've got to just switch off. So sometimes by trying to be helpful and trying to do the right thing, we can just exhaust ourselves. And I'm speaking here from personal experience, having done a lot of that in my early years and early monastic life. Trying to be all things to all people at all times is really exhausting. And so the result of that can be like, I just want to switch off, to just not feel, to just let me out of here. And there's something that just wants to shut down, that goes towards that numbing and nullifying. So I would say that the elements that make engagement stressful is those other kinds of craving. When we talk about tanha, or that the craving that is the cause of suffering, then the most obvious kind of craving is for sense pleasure, to see beautiful things, to hear beautiful sounds, to taste beautiful flavors, to be with attractive people, and so on and so forth, to have sensual pleasure. So that craving for sense pleasure is the most obvious kind of craving. I would suggest, again, I'm not reading anybody's mind, it's probably the same for most of us. That's the most obvious one. That's called karma tanha, karma, as in sense pleasure. But it's got two very quiet companions, which are the desire to become and the desire to get rid of. And those of you who've listened to many of Ajahn Sumedho's talks and read his books over the years will know he talks about these two qualities a lot. The desire to become and the desire to get rid of. Bhava tanha, vibhava tanha. Because in meditation, these are very, very easily elements that sort of come into the picture and take over. So the desire to be, I want to get concentrated, I've got to get rid of my defilements, I want to be a stream enterer, I've got to get enlightened, I've got a lot of problems, I've got a lot of bad habits, I need to get rid of them, I wish my thinking mind would just shut up, how can I get rid of my chattering thoughts? So you might consider, well, that's all that sounds good, Ajahn. Isn't that the program that we signed up for? I thought that was in the small print, you know. But you might have noticed, as I was speaking, all the I ams, I haves, I have got a lot of problems, I've got a chattering mind, I've got to get my mind to shut up, I want to become enlightened, I want to be a stream enterer. All that I and me and mine, I have, I want, I should, I must, I got to get rid of, that is all bhava tanha, vibhava tanha, the desire to become, the desire to get rid of. So that's in a way like a virus, well, not quite post-COVID yet, as we all know, but that insidious virus that sort of sneaks in and takes over the system, or like a computer virus that comes in and takes over the operating system, that they are in a sense can look as though it's the following the instruction for skillful meditation, but actually it's a lot to do with I making and mind making. The I, me and mine is then that element that's crept into the picture, that's come into the attitude, that is the thing that causes that stressfulness or that burdensome quality of engagement. I would say it's when I've got to do, I should do, I mustn't, I should, all of that. The more I am in it, the more there is that stressfulness and tension, that burden in the heart. The less I am there, or each one of us, I would say, the less I am there is in the mixture. I am, I have, I should, I shouldn't, then that is naturally liberating, and we find ourselves able to act based on right resolution, right intention, and right effort. And in using the word right, I'm aware that's also got some pejorative qualities to it, because it's not right as in opposed to wrong or bad, but rather right as in upright or balanced. So probably attuned attuned intentions, attuned attitudes, attuned effort, and in the meaning of being attuned to reality, attuned to nature. So when we can act free of those desire to become, the desire to get rid of, then we're still taking the necessary steps to cultivate the wholesome and let go of the unwholesome, but there isn't an I, me or mine involved. What's guiding and driving action and attitude is mindfulness and wisdom, sati and panya. Mindfulness and wisdom are what guides those choices, those actions and that effort, rather than me trying to do something.